the teacher in Detroit Public Schools. So, now I was raised by a dad who was a Milliken Republican and a mother who was a Frank Kelly Democrat. And that means my dad actually worked in the Milliken administration as the Director of Commerce. My mom was one of Frank Kelly's top lawyers in the Attorney General's office. And you can imagine we had some interesting conversations in our household. I think your question was less about our support for educators, but I want to just touch on that real quick. My grandma taught Waterford schools. My grandfather was a superintendent of Pontiac schools. My mother taught in the Lansing Public Schools. And my 13-year-old told me not long ago she wants to become a teacher. And it's with great pride I hear that, but concern too, because I know what has happened with the ranks of teachers in this state. Because this legislature and because governors have not only not raised teachers up, but they've attacked teachers, attacked your pay, attacked your ability to bargain, attacked your benefits, your deferred compensation. And so I know how hard your job is, but as a parent of 2 kids in the public schools, I know how important your job is. And we as a state have to start treating teachers like professionals again and giving them the support they need, or we're never going to get our kids ready for the world that they live in. But I think the real part of your question was, how are we going to appeal to how are we going to put the votes together to be successful? And that's why I started with where my family comes from, right? Because what you learn when you're raised in a household like that is not all great ideas stem from one part of the state or from one party in the state. Is that we've got to have a table that's big enough, that is diverse enough, that we can solve the problems that are facing this state. And that means getting into every part of this state. I told you I've been to 30 out of the 83 counties. I'm going to get to every single one of them because I do believe that one of the lessons of 2016 is that we cannot take anyone or any vote or any community for granted. That we got to show people the respect of showing up and asking what's standing in your way of accomplishing your goals and how do I build a platform that helps you get there. I think that's how we build this again. Not to assume that an MEA endorsement, well, we all want it, means every teacher is going to vote the same way, or that every community of color is going to vote a certain way, or every big city, or every woman's going to vote a certain way. We got to show people the respect of showing up and earning their support, building this coalition, turning it into a movement so we can turn this state around. I think that's what's going to be most important as we look to the future of this state, beginning with 2018 and building forward. I think that's the answer to your question.
Again, I want to focus on the question. I can say a lot about education. I was a teacher. When I first worked on my PhD, I taught undergraduate chemistry classes. So I know firsthand what it is to be a teacher. But I think your question related to how do we appeal to the broader Michiganders to win in 2018. And I'm going to just focus on that, right? We have the diehard Democrats, and then we have the extreme right-wing Republicans. And in between what we have a lot of independents. We have the Republican leading independents, and then we have the Democratic leading independents. Now in 2014, we put our candidate. Our candidate did not appeal as well to the independents. So I think what we really need to look at is look at what people want. People are tired of the same old. People are tired of our politicians in the pockets of the lobbyists and the special interests and the corporations and the large money. And they will tell us everything we want to hear. Once they get elected, then in their offices, guess what? It's time for payback to those lobbyists. And none of you, I believe, have a lobbyist in Lansing, right? Yeah. And so we need to give people a choice. I think the same word isn't working. I'm a small business person. I have played by the rules. I have, lived a tough life. I know how to make decisions. I know how to have a vision for our state and implement that, put together a team and make that happen. And so I think I would appeal to the independents much more so than a traditional politician would. And I think I will help win this governorship against a well-oiled Republican machinery.
Can I ask you your name? Doreen Evans. So when I was the health director, I personally inspected a lot of the schools in Detroit. That was in a moment where there were teachers who were unfortunately having to stick out to actually get anybody to pay attention to the state of the schools where you work every day. And I've personally seen that, those mice dying in the corner, the fact that you have school gyms that can't be used because they're buckling with mold, the fact that you have kids who are in the first grade who are wearing their coats in class until 11 a.m. because that's their reality. So I just want to say, this person and all of the people who teach in places like Detroit, they deserve another round of applause. This question has a lot of parts. The question of how do we solve education? The question of how do we build a political will to do it? Right? When it comes to education, we know that this was Betsy DeVos's training ground. This is where she cut her teeth before she went nationally. And we have to undo that work. We know that. Right? That means reinvesting in schools. That means doing the basic work of making sure that school districts like Detroit have the means of being able to build their buildings up and make sure that the heat works and the boiler works. That means making sure that we give access to control over educational decisions back to parents and teachers, the people who should be making those decisions in the first place. But then the question of how do you build a political will to do it? And our Constitution is a beautiful thing. And it tells us that all political power shall be vested in the people. And right now we have too many corporate interests, too many lobbyists, too many people who have bought out our legislators in a number of different places. And I'll tell you that as governor, I've been to 67 different cities already, 35 different counties. As governor, I will continue to do the work of getting out. Because if you are able to take political decision making back to the people, right, the folks who